Hello and welcome to Landy's Crypto Corner. Today is March 12th, 2024, and we are staring at charts yet again, taking a look at Bitcoin on the daily here. We can see that Bitcoin did come down a bit in yesterday's price action to tap the upper first. So we did talk about this in yesterday's live stream, that as long as Bitcoin is trading and closing daily candles above the upper first, the upper second is a likely target, as is the upper third, or somewhere in between the upper second and upper third. So in this case, the upper first has now moved up to around 69,900. So basically $70,000. So as long as Bitcoin is closing candles above here on the daily, that does make the upper second an available target here, which is now coming in at 76,650. And the upper third is up there at 83,350. Now, I'm more looking for above 75 for Bitcoin to land in the deeper 70s and lower 80s. I think it might be a bit of a stretch for it to head up and actually strike that upper third directly, but somewhere around, closes on medium term timeframes below the daily, I would be looking, at above 75 for 80 to pretty quickly get tagged. Doesn't mean it's going to get tagged directly. We'll take a look at some some fibs here to try to gauge whether or not that is a likely upside target area of confluence. But in this case, as long as Bitcoin is closing above around $70,000, I would expect that 75 to at least be on the table here pretty soon, and then above 75 shortly thereafter. Now, if Bitcoin does close below the upper first and lose this wick low from Monday, then I would target the basis somewhere around this bear candle here. This is now an order block candle with price trading above it. So that is coming in at around 63,170 and about 63,180 below there. And I would look to the wick low of that bear candle around $60,000 to the lower first. That's coming in at 56,400, almost 56,500. Now, if for some reason that area were to break down, then I would start targeting the highs here at around $53,000 to the lower second, which is coming in right along the lows here, somewhere around 50,000 to 50,500. Now, this is currently coming in at 49,740, but I would be looking somewhere around that even $50,000 number. It is possible for this lower second to get tagged from here on high volatility, but as it stands right now, we do see a bit of a decrease in volatility as the lower bands begin to quickly catch up to price action. But Bitcoin is consolidating between the upper first and upper second, which is very, very strong. So as long as it's closing above that upper first at around 70, this is in a very strong position and will continue to be so. And I wouldn't be looking for a daily high until I see closes below there. So we can take a look at a few other things here on the daily. We can see BBWP is cooling down in the context of Bitcoin consolidating between that upper first and second. So this is a good thing. That's very bullish. If volatility does pick up, then the only way that we're going to see BBWP get back above the moving average would be on closes above that upper second now, which are coming in at around, or which is coming in at around 76,600 as Bitcoin kind of oscillates around here. These will react to price action live ever so slightly. So, to be quite honest, this $70,000 number, you could take the close open that was retested in yesterday's candle, which is coming in at roughly $69,000 even. So if you did want to take that candle wick low from yesterday as your indicator as whether or not this is going to test a bit lower, that's, of course, right on the top of this now order block candle. This bear candle in the middle of this run with a nice big wick down into that $60,000 zone. Let's go ahead and take a look at support and resistance in this area for the daily, because right now there is no overhead resistance. It's a blue sky breakout. So what we did see is that yesterday's candle struck right there at the $69,000 previous all-time high from 2021. And anything inside of this zone with the two green horizontals here at around $69,000 to $65,000. Bitcoin can come back and tag that area. It's still very bullish. It's still very bullish all the way down to the basis and into the monthly closing all-time high area from April of 21 to March of 21. And that is at 61,350 down to 58.8. Of course, if it did deviate below there, I would look to that lower first, like I was saying earlier, somewhere around 56,500 or so, maybe even lower into the $55,000 area. That would be a beautiful opportunity. Of course, not financial advice. Do your own research, all that good stuff. You'd want to see volume coming in basically, and shorter term timeframes begin an uptrend from that area if it did occur. As it stands right now, things look just fine for Bitcoin to continue up and to the right. And of course, that is conditional based on closes above $70,000. You see I have two indicators here. This is the advanced Stoke. You don't need that. That's a fancy indicator from Eric Crown's developers over there. I believe that one's by KVDB. I don't have any kind of sponsorship or affiliation, or I don't make any money for talking about their indicators. I'm just a big fan of their devs over there. And it's got a bunch of fancy features, but there is a free Stoke momentum indicator that has price pivots for when Stoke crosses. So in this case, the K would cross below the D read on any closes below 71,550 today. That would be an initial cross down. I would want to see a follow-up closure and a high put in, not just a swing high, but a closing high. So that means lower low closes than the previous opens of the bull candles. So in this case, I would be looking for, closes coming in below the Monday candles open to confirm a high on a close. But I would still just generally be looking back into that $65,000 to $69,000 range. Now, we are going to follow up with quite a bit more stuff here on Wednesday's live stream, where we're going to look at some of the timeframes in between the daily and weekly. The weekly is still very, very strong and still in an expansive posture. And any weekly closes above the upper second, which is sitting at 66,650 there. Again, now that's that 66,650 is below the daily upper first, but I would be looking generally for signs of a bounce in that area. If price does arrive there, I'd be watching volume, and then kind of come back to it if it does bounce and see where things bounce to, and if it can recover any of these areas that it's that it could possibly lose. Now in this case, I'm talking a lot about the downside, but we will look at the upside. As long as Bitcoin is closing weeklies above this upper second, wicks can really land anywhere. The upper first is just below the monthly there, where the daily lower first is, and that is that's coming in at, is that the daily lower first? Let's go double check. Let's double check. That's the basis. No, it's the lower first at 56,500. So the weekly upper first is right around that area at 56,469. Nice. Now that is generally an area in a very powerful uptrend that I would be looking for a very big bounce if price did go tag it on the daily, because it's also got confluence with the weekly there. And I would be looking generally for dailies and weeklies to close somewhere in the March of 2021 monthly close area at around 58.8 if that were to occur. But right now, everything is in a very strong posture. As we discussed yesterday, the basis band of the Bollinger Bands on the weekly is far above the prior low at 38,500. I would not be looking down in that area at all until we see some sort of a daily downtrend that would have to occur right here, right now. Okay, so I'm not really looking for that unless we were to see the daily start to breach some of these downside areas and then that lead into the weekly. And of course, really only looking for the weekly to even head back in those areas if it were to breach and break down below the upper first this week. And that's around that 56,500 area. So something to watch if we do see price start to bearishly reclaim the prior all-time high zone on the wicks or swings or shadows, whatever you'd like to call them, whatever school of TA you're from. But, it would also have to bearishly reclaim the monthly all-time high closes from October of 2021 and March of 2021. So, this is these targets down here for the bands and in terms of the volatility levels is not really in the cards for me until I see something like that. At minimum, need to see dailies closing below that monthly there at 58.8. Now, we do have sustained expansion of BBWP in the context of Bitcoin trading above the upper second standard deviation of the Bollinger Bands. So high volatility for price action with Bollinger Band expansion. That generally has me looking up and to the right until proven otherwise. That would start to change if we did see Bitcoin closing the weekly candles below the upper second at around that 66,600 area. And losing $65,000 at the April of 2021 all-time high. Breach the first real big swing and daily closing all-time high that was put in after. There was one in the mid to upper 20s, 30 area, but realistically, when the run was really, the bull run was kind of running out of steam before the Wyckoff accumulation on the daily, that hit the spring and went and made the new all-time high here at 69K. The big identifiable all-time high area was that $65,000. Of course, it had people looking at much deeper targets at the time. I didn't really entertain really deep targets at the time. And we're going to discuss this stuff as we start to reach critical areas on longer term timeframes like the monthly, 2-month, and quarterly. And I'll discuss this tomorrow a little bit. And of course, at the end of the month when the quarterly closes. But I wasn't looking for too much more. I believe at the time, for those of you that were, listening to my live streams at the time or following my technical analysis, I was looking at around anywhere between 70 and 72, right where, Bitcoin is trading right now in 2021, even on the bounce back to 69K to make a higher high. I wasn't looking too much further. Just the outlook for Bollinger Bands and volatility and everything was really shifting. So, when I see that stuff again, I'll definitely let you know. We're not even close to that right now. This is just getting rolling in terms of blue sky breakout. And, we'll be talking about more all-time highs for Bitcoin, day after day, week after week for a little while. And in this case, the weekly looks beautiful. BBWP expansion trading above the $69,000 all-time high. Would like to see it close above there by Sunday. And then, of course, we've got 66,800. We'll call it 66,794. We'll just call it 66,800 for the momentum pivot on the weekly. And even if this were to cross down, I'd be looking for bullish resets in Stochastic momentum and on price action. That would probably lead to a daily high that would give us some really clear areas to pay attention to upon any kind of a daily retracement. But as it stands right now, things are looking very, very bullish for Bitcoin, and I do expect it to remain that way. Upper third, of course, is there at 76,000, almost 900. So again, the daily upper third is in the low $76,000 area. The weekly upper third is in the higher $76,000 area, almost 77,000. So I would be looking for, if Bitcoin gets above 75 or so, for it to test the deeper $70,000 area, possibly into $80,000 or low $80,000 area. All right. It's actually the upper second on the daily. My apologies. Yeah, 76 is the upper second. Upper third is in the low $80,000 area. I don't know if Bitcoin would directly hit that this week, but we'll have to come back to it and look. Maybe if it starts closing above the upper second, we can start looking towards that upper third. It starts closing above $76,000, $77,000 into the deeper numbers up there in the 70s. Then we can maybe start entertaining the mid to low 80s as potential targets to the upside if they weren't hit on a wick or something. Yeah, that's pretty much it for that portion of TA. Let's go ahead and actually come back to the weekly, and let's look at this particular move from swing high, current swing high to previous swing low. 4 areas of interest. If we did start to see things break down, we can see the 618. Where is it fallen? Right on the weekly's upper first here, right around $56,500, $57,000. It's actually coming in at $57,185. So, probably about $1,000 range, around $57,500 to $56,500 would be a safe area to look. All the way down to this 50% read here, which is just catching the prior wicks there at $53,000 absolutely perfectly. And it would not be out of character to see Bitcoin come back and tag the breakout, the breakout retest there at 53K. I actually wouldn't mind it. We've seen Bitcoin do this quite a lot. And of course, I say I wouldn't mind it because I'd love to be a buyer again at that level. Be a little bit greedy here. Got a lot of longs going, got a lot of Bitcoin that I was collecting during the bear market, but still want more. And, this 38.5 tap was directly on a monthly as well. If you may recall, if we were to throw on the monthly, weekly support resistance area, this monthly down here, Bitcoin has been doing this kind of right along. We had $35,000 struck bearishly initially in the very lower term timeframes, closed right on it, regained it, tested it as support, tested up to 38.5 in the daily timeframes, and then moved on to the next monthly. When it hit this area here, right at that 382, it dumped off and directly smacked right into that monthly close right there at 38.5. So, Bitcoin's been doing this entire run. It would not be out of character if Bitcoin were to start losing that upper first, especially there at the 618 and the 618, I should say, because the upper first on the weekly is currently slightly below there at 56,500. But if it was to lose the upper first around there, then I would look for a test of 53, maybe even directly on the dollar. I mean, it's been doing that really, really accurately lately. Even in the lower term timeframes, it's really beautiful to watch if you are obsessed with price action like myself. Now, for this current move, until we see a daily closing high, I'm not interested in the upside fib extensions, I should say. But in the context of, upside targets, I would take the prior swing high that put in a daily closing high. I mean, it kind of put in a daily closing high. So you had a close. Excuse me, man. I made it. I made it so far into this video without coughing. I'm coming into the end of the cold, so bear with me on that one. I do apologize with no warning there, coughing right in your ear holes. But in this case, we can take we had the bear candle. So we had a low close come in below this bull candle's open. So we had December 25th into the 26th, which was an up candle. And then we had a lower low close. So that would be considered a closing high, along with the swing high that's in there to swing low. But in this case, swing high to previous swing low that put in a closing high and a closing low is going to be the best thing to gauge extensions right now, in my opinion. So when looking at the daily, we can see that the 1272 got dumped off too perfectly after Bitcoin, grabbed on in the lower term timeframes to that 1272 and 1414. It spiked right back to the 1272 on this type of a fib extension. And in this case, getting above the 1414 gives us generalized targets to the 1618 here at around $74,000. And you can see the confluence here at the upper third with the 1786 coming into the low $80,000 region. I am looking at $80,000 as a big profit taking area. So, I wouldn't be surprised if it did fall short of that area. Also, without seeing any compression of the Bollinger Bands and the spread remaining pretty wide here, I do think it would be a little less likely for it to directly strike that upper third from here in the next day or two. But, weirder things have happened. It's very bullish right now. So I wouldn't necessarily fully rule it out either. But above 75 at that 1618, I'm generally looking into, the mid to upper 70s, possibly 80. If it starts to regain that, then I would begin to look to the daily upper third position where that 1786 extension is currently coming in. And, as long as it's holding the breakout above $50,000, daily lower second. This is bullish. It's up and to the right, even if it was very violently volatile to the downside in some respect. But for right now, trading above the upper first, trading above 70K, previous all-time high at 69K. It's looking good. No issues with it. Looks like it's going to keep continuing up and to the right as long as it fulfills its conditions of closing above around $69,000 to $70,000. So I'm going to leave you with that. I will be streaming tomorrow. I don't have a set time. I have a few things that I have going on in the morning, but I will notify you via the Discord channel, which you can find the publicly available Discord down in the link in the video description there. It is an invite code. You just go in there, you verify, and then you can chat with myself and others in the community. You can also follow me at CryptoLandy on X, formerly Twitter, and I will be notifying everybody there when I go live. So yeah, I'm going to leave you with that. You have a wonderful morning, afternoon, and evening, no matter where you are in the world. Please trade safe, and of course, as always, stay safe. With all of that being said, Landy out.